All right. Cool. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be assembling a shot in Unreal Engine to use as reference for the background for this character sketch, which I did this morning in the AM Twitch stream. I also just realized that I started the stream and with my viewer count showing on my camera, and it's just a little embarrassing to sit there with 0 viewers and 0 viewers showing. I'm just airing my viewer count for all to see, so I might just hide that. All right, cool, sweet. So the sketch on the right on screen right, this is going to be messing me up all day. So the sketch on screen right, did that this morning for my morning AM Monday art stream, and while I'm totally comfortable on the anatomy side, so when it comes to the character, both the creature coming out of her and herself, no dramas, cloth, costuming, character, all that stuff, very, very comfortable with. I don't have a good head for environmental art. It's not where I spent my mental skill points growing up. It's all my time and energy was spent in characters. It probably would help if I looked at the camera, wouldn't it? So all the time and energy I had was spent on characters and developing my skills as a character artist. So that's where Unreal Engine comes in. It gives me an opportunity to create the background that I see in my head, and then I can use that as a basis and reference in the shot that I'm working on. I'm gonna actually begin, so I'm gonna go through the whole process of installing a marketplace asset and then bringing in Turbosquid assets. So I'll go through the whole process with you, and then I just realized I didn't have any music playing. How strange. But first I just want to show you an example. Okay. Thank you, Stream Elements. Okay, so first I want to show you an example of what it is that I mean. So let's go open up my last artwork and my last shot, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the last artwork I did was this one of Lady Death. So this was my Lady Death Redux piece, and her background is entirely done in Unreal Engine. I think with this particular piece, if I were to continue it on, I would spend some time rendering. I'd actually start painting in background details, because it looks like you can see the difference between filtered render and drawn foreground character, and it just looks a little bit floaty and unfinished, frankly. So if I were to do this again, and what I'm going to be doing on the next piece, on the Dark Child piece, is I'll generate my background as a reference as opposed to something to actually put in the artwork, with intention of actually rendering it into the actual painting. So that's the process for how I came up with this particular background. And I'm just going to actually show you the scene that was used to generate that before we go in and start compiling a new scene for the new piece. And if anyone has just joined us, I'm basically spending this afternoon going to be creating a background for the artwork that I made this morning, which is, I'll show you. So the sketch we did this morning, this was from this morning's live stream. So and I was mentioning that the foreground character, totally comfortable with. I have no problem moving ahead, just illustrating that. But the background, I don't have a head for environmental art at all. Like I can't see it necessarily. Like I have an idea of what I want, but I don't have the instinct for environmental art that I do for character art. So, but that's where Unreal Engine is amazing and can come in, because Unreal Engine gives me an opportunity to basically block out what I see in my head and use that as a reference. For this next, and I'll show you how I did that. I'll show you what I mean. That's what I did for this Lady Death piece. So I created, well, I'm not gonna take credit for it, because this is an amazing map created by another artist. So this is the Ancient Cavern Set 3 on the Unreal Engine Marketplace, and it's just so atmospheric and freaking awesome. It's a bit pricey, but it's beautiful and it's so worth it. You can already see the shot angle. So if you look at the skull cap there, that's this here in the background, and you can sort of see the shape of that highlight as well comes through there. So what I ended up doing, I've got to find, where did I have a scene in here with a whole bunch of critters and monsters that have that I use physics to drop and set up as bodies. So in the foreground you can see like there's all these bodies arranged on top of each other, and that's how I ended up creating. So I had this creature pack of like 100 monsters or something, and you can actually see some of the monsters here that I had dropped, and they're in their death pose. So I turned them into I turned on ragdoll physics and I dropped them from on high, and then did keep simulation changes. So I kept all the poses and then arranged them artfully on this beautiful guy here, and then found the shot angle that I wanted, and that's how that's how I started pulling the reference that I used in the background. And I'm pretty sure I still have the layers too. So if I go back, the actual shot I had used is, so you can see it here. This is what I'd ended up with. So after I use physics and ragdoll to drop all these monsters and keep simulation changes, I basically just flew around the scene until I had the angle that I liked. And then I took this into Photoshop and filtered the frick out of it. So here's some examples. So after a lot of filtering, I basically ended up with some, ooh, that was some reference for another Lady Death image that was a little bit more suggestive. Here's the final mask. So this is what actually ended up going into the artwork. So this, and I think it was this, I ended up sort of adding and multiplying and layering them together a few times to create this effect, which we see in the final image. And yeah, it's Unreal Engine. You don't need to learn a bunch of 3D programs. We're gonna go through it right now, how easy it is to just find something online you want to work with, in terms of different background and prop assets, pull them all together, bring in the camera, set up a shot, and hopefully I've got time, I can show you some stuff on adjusting lighting and like if you really want to get really good reference. So let's do that. I am, however, going to adjust my lighting because I'm glowing at the moment, so just give me one moment. All right, no longer glowing, which is very nice. I also sat on something strange. Okay, I'm just taking a moment to make sure that my mic is actually on, because I had a fun time this morning on stream. I even forgot to turn my mic on. Very amateur move, that one. All right, so let's get back to the task at hand. now I want to actually do this from the ground up. So I'm going to assume that you're absolutely brand new to Unreal Engine. You've never used it before, and if that's the, and then work up from there. So we're going to look at Marketplace as if you've, from the perspective of having never used it. We're going to create a project, and then we're going to start building our environment. I've got some assets as well from Turbosquid that I want to bring in. So like what I'm seeing with this is I'm seeing like an urban suburban home. Like I want, as if like I'm thinking it's Halloween night, trick-or-treating, and she's knocked on the door, it's opened, and in the flash of a second, this, because Dark Child is herself a portal to another dimension, and things can come out of her and into ours. So in that second, something just goes and does what it's going to do and has its way with you. So I picture her on the front porch of an urban house, and I wanted to have, because Halloween, I wanted to have like pumpkins and cheap little Halloween decorations there. So I found a really cool pack on Turbosquid. So I'll bring that one over. So this, now I'm still trying to hunt down the textures, and I may not actually get them. It could be that the textures were just in the preview of the pack, but these are the models that come with it, and they're just fantastic. They're so much fun. They're exactly what I wanted. And so I'll bring those into the Unreal project and set up my shot with those. And I'm just going to take one more squeeze to see if the textures came with any of the other downloads. And if not, that's fine. So Halloween decor. And I'm going to take you with me. Let's just see if so with Turbosquid stuff, sometimes here you go. Sometimes they put the textures in another scene. So here's the 3ds Max scene with textures. So in theory, we should have everything that we need. Let's open that up. Hey, I see textures. Cool. Nothing is named in a way that makes this easy, unfortunately. But I should be able to maybe select an object here. No, I can't actually see what texture was assigned to it. That's unfortunate. Well, darn. Oh, I can eyeball it and work out which texture goes where. Let's try the OBJ. Maybe that one's got better luck. And it doesn't have to have the texture assigned to it. It would just be helpful. Let's go import. Okay, importing that OBJ. Maybe it has texture nodes, maybe it doesn't. With Turbosquid, you never know. Sometimes you get stuff that's incredibly well put together and you can just drop it into Unreal Engine instantly, and it works perfect. It works perfect for first time go. Other times, not so much. So we will find out what kind of time this is. Oh, interesting. It looks like something's happening. No, this one comes in pretty much on textures as well. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for some kind of input connection into this color channel to tell me that there's an external file going into that, and I am seeing no such input. But that's fine. All we need really, because we don't need the textures, we just need the shapes. We need a proportional reference in this particular case. But I think for the sake of doing shot setup with you guys, I might actually set up some of the textures as well, just so you see how it's done and what the process is. Okay, so if you've never opened Unreal Engine before, when you go to actually download Unreal Engine, and let's take you through the whole process. We're going to take you on a little bit of a story time journey here. So let's go Chrome. And Showing all my secrets there. Okay, so let's go Unreal Engine and download. I just want to show you what it all looks like. Okay, so I'm going to download Unreal Engine for the first time. If you're doing this for the first time, you're going to get the creator's license, because the publishing license is if you're actually making and publishing a game. And if you are not actually making and publishing a game, you do not need if you're not doing that, you don't need the publishing license. And creator's license is free. You'll be able to do all that's the thing. Like, you can, besides paying for individual assets, you can use Unreal Engine and do all of this for free, which is just amazing, because the final render is they used Unreal, like they used something, I think they used a modded version of Unreal Engine for The Mandalorian. Like that's the level of quality we're talking about in terms of final render. There were shots in the new Matrix and that new Matrix experience for PlayStation 5 is all done in Unreal Engine. Like, it's insane. It's like getting Maya and RenderMan for free. Anyways, you go to download Unreal Engine and you get the creator's license and you go download now. And what that's actually going to download is this, which is the Epic Games launcher. This is where you are going to launch Unreal Engine. This is where you're going to launch, this is where you're going to get all your assets. Well, specifically your marketplace assets. Okay, so if you're opening this, if you've got an Epic Games account and you have games, then what you need to pay attention to is on the left-hand column here. So under Epic Games, you will often see your games library. But once you, oh, hello, Storm Kaylee, how are you? Once you have actually, once you get the Epic Games launcher, once you want to do Unreal Engine, you'll see this Unreal Engine tab on the left-hand side, and that's where you want to be, because that's going to give you all the tabs for your development. UE4 main page. I always recommend checking this out, because it's going to let you know when the weekly what the weekly live stream is. They'll do a free weekly live stream every Friday, and they cover off really useful, cool stuff every week. Your Learn tab is going to be all kinds of tutorials and cool stuff. This one, you'll come in to this one after you've learned Unreal a little bit. So, because this can be a little bit daunting for someone who's brand new. But in the Learning tab, the content examples is probably one of the best one to open up, because you can just it's just got so many different examples of how to use Unreal Engine in there. Marketplace is where we're going to be. So that's actually where we're going to start. Let's say we so we're going to start looking for marketplace assets to use in the background. I know I want to do a house. I want to do like a house with I want to see a bit of the interior. I want to see a bit of street. So if I go to the marketplace and I search house, I just want to show you some of the things that come up. You're going to get all kinds. You'll get houses from, you'll get deep house music. You'll get houses from all kinds of different styles of game and genres of game. But then you're also going to get ones which are sort of like ArcViz geared. They're geared towards architectural visualization or film or television. And those ones are, if you're doing like animation or film animation, or you're doing like reference, like what I'm doing for an artwork, then these are definitely the ones to look for. But honestly, just have a browse through all of them. You'll have a you'll have a variety of prices. Oh, this one's amazing. And if I didn't already have a set purchased for this, I would so be tempted to get this set, because it is so cool. This atmospheric house comes in like super clean architectural visualization version and dark, spooky horror game version, which immediately brings to mind the idea that you can have gameplay and introduce a story when everything is pristine, and then show everything going degraded over time. In fact, I am so going to be getting this set at some point, because it's perfect for an animation that I've got in mind. But the one I already have, and the one that I'm using for this particular shot is the modular house. And okay, so a question people have quite frequently when they're looking at marketplace assets for the first time is, right, this looks great. How do I get this into my project? Or how do I build a project? I've got this add to project button, but if you've installed Unreal Engine for the first time, you're not going to have a project to add it to. There's not going to be anything here. So the first step is actually to create a project from scratch that we will then be adding things into. So I'm going to take you through that step now. Okay. In library, this is where all the versions of Unreal Engine that you've installed are going to live. If you have nothing here because it's the first time you've booted up the Epic Games Launcher, all you have to do is hit this little plus symbol next to engine versions, and it will pop up whichever the latest version of the engine is. And if you press the plus symbol again, it's going to pop up whatever the version is previously, so you can actually install past versions, which is extremely useful if you have plugins or assets that are only operate in past versions. You can install a past version, open up that asset, and then migrate it over to a whatever the latest version is. Okay, so let's launch 4.27. As Unreal Engine 5 isn't yet out of early access, so it hasn't been released for public use yet, so I'm a bit reluctant to start doing tutorials in it. There's incredible people doing tutorials in it already, so I'm going to leave them to it. Okay, so for my purposes, so once I press 427, it's going to open up this select or create a new project. This is probably going to be empty for you. Now, of all these different templates, basically these different templates have some things turned on, and some things turned off. Now, I do a lot of rendering for film and television, or film and animation. And I have found sometimes using the games template can interfere with my movie render queue and make it, and I was getting render crashes. But when I did exactly the same project, precisely the same, no different, but my template was architecture, engineering, and construction, I had perfect renders. So not entirely sure what's happening there. The idea here is that each template has stuff turned on for that particular industry. I've been getting a lot of, for my single frame renders and for my full animation renders, I have been enjoying the effect of architecture, engineering, and construction. So I'm gonna go with that one again. And I'll go next. Now they've given me a few different options, so templates for creating a new project in. I'm not going to use any of them. I'm just going to go blank. If you decided that you actually want to take a look at these templates and open them up and see what's there, because there is a lot of stuff that they've given you to start with for cool sort of product experiences in that area, you can add all of these into the project later, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to open up that blank template, hit next, and so you can have to start with the starter content or nothing. So starter content is just like a couple of different props and things that make it easy to work with, that you can start working with. And you can say you want ray tracing enabled or disabled. I'm going to start with it disabled, and I will choose to turn it on if I so choose. Like I want to consciously turn it on and set things up slowly, because sometimes when you turn on ray tracing, the project can crash, and I want to sort of make sure I'm in a good place and I know what's going on if I'm going to have that crash, so I can come back and fix that. All right, so I'm going to call this dchild bg underscore bg. This is the name for my project. Everything Unreal for this particular project goes into that folder. And the thing to keep in mind with Unreal stuff is it wants a short project name. Like you don't do a long name. Unreal's gonna hate it. It's gonna have a hard time saving assets correctly. And chances of things going kind of wrong increase. So just keep it as a short name. Cool. Create project. That's creating. Do 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 do. Pow! All right, it's open. I didn't even have time to take a sip of my coffee. Cool. All right, so this is actually first step done. We needed a project ready to go so that we could then like have a place for our marketplace assets to get downloaded into. So I'm going to now exit out of this. We've created it. Cool, it's done. I'm going to exit out of it and go back to the Epic Games launcher. I personally like to have the project closed when I'm downloading stuff to the project, just in case. You can probably still have it open. I'm sure it doesn't matter that much. I'm just a little bit paranoid, and I want to make sure that Unreal Engine has a chance to go through its full startup and shutdown operations. Okay, let's go back to the marketplace and find that modular house again. So I'll just search house again. And so there it is, modular house. I already own it, but if you didn't own it already, you could add it to cart and then check out, and it's, you know, you know how to do that. You know how to check out of a cart at this point. It's pretty standard stuff. So all I need to do is, if I own it already, I can go add to project and select the dchild BG project that I just created. So that's one way of adding this new asset to your project. But the other way of adding it is if you go back into your library, so the same place where all your engine versions are, go below projects, so keep scrolling past projects, and you've got your vault. This is all the stuff that you own. I have a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. So much stuff. Oh my goodness. Okay, I've reached the end. I have a lot of stuff. The grand majority of these actually I got for free because Epic releases free marketplace content every month. And once you grab it, it's yours forever. I get some really random stuff, but you'd be amazed how often it becomes useful. Like, for example, the modular house, which I'm going to use as the background for this particular artwork. I happened to get that from a free marketplace assets month once ages ago, and I had no idea. Like, I actually didn't remember I had that. So when I went to go search for houses and saw that, you know, the one I actually wanted to use, I already owned, I was like, oh my gosh, that's just so lucky. So every month, if you go into marketplace, you just go free and go free for the month, and you will find 5 new assets every single month, and just grab those and you own them forever. It's awesome. Okay, so the other way to download an asset that you own into a project, I'll just go back up to the top of my library here, is, gosh, there's just so much. Okay, search the vault. I'm gonna search for house. Boom. I happen to own a bunch of different things that have the word house in them, including my modular house. This is the one that we talked about getting earlier. All you have to do is, once again, you've got add to project, click on that, go to my dark child background project I created earlier, go add to project, and sit and wait, because that's a 4 gig file. So it's going to take a couple of minutes. I am actually going to let it go through because I want to start with a brand new clean project and show you how that works. I'm going to put my pause screen up for a second because as I've been talking, my bandana has slowly been inching its way over my head and it's currently going walkabout. So I'm going to put my pause screen up for a second, fix my hair, and then we'll come back to this. I'll talk about some of the Turbosquid stuff while we wait for this to finish downloading. Okay, we are back. We're actually finished downloading already. So that's great. We can actually just jump straight into the project. My hair has magically fixed itself. When you don't have a professional hair team, and a bandana is great in a pinch. Okay, let's see. Where am I going? Library, and we want my D-Child background. Here we are, D-Child background. Let's open that up. So I'm just double clicking to open that. Let's make sure I haven't accidentally started opening it already somewhere. No, okay. I misclicked. Boom, all right. Double click to open that. What you can't see is that on my other monitor, I have it, it's currently initializing. There it is. Okay, cool. And it's at the moment I've got auto exposures turned on. That's where you get that like super bright effect. But we can turn that off because it is way too bright. But let's just see what we've got to work with. So let's go into first of all, I just want to introduce you to this space a bit. So when you do the architectural and construction template, the default map that you're going to start on is this one. Now I'm navigating around this using the same hotkeys I would as a game. I mean, it's just WASD. So I've got right mouse button held down to move my camera, and then it's just WASD to move around the scene. I'm also in Australia at the moment. It's bloody hot and I don't have air conditioner or fan, so please forgive the shiny forehead as I get progressively warmer. Okay, so WSD to move around the scene, and just right mouse button. Anyone who's played a first-person shooter should be able to do this fairly comfortably. And it doesn't take that long to get used to it if you've never played a first-person shooter a single day in your life. Okay, so that's how you basically move around Unreal Engine. Just WASD, right mouse button. Just pretend you are playing a video game. And let's check out the modular houses content that we just installed. So if this is your viewport, below it, I've got my content browser. I'm just going to move that below the webcam so you can see. Okay, so this is the first tab I've got open here. This is the content browser. This is everything that's in your project. And if I actually go open the project folder itself, you'll see that they match one for one. So Unreal Projects. Cool. So in content, so in the Darkchild background project folder that I created before, if I go into content, you'll see I've got modular houses, starter content, main build data. They're the same thing. Now, when you're working with assets, always work with assets in Unreal Engine. You don't want to be working with them naked in this project folder here, because all of the assets are built to talk to each other within the editor. So you want to stay in there. Like migrate things and transfer things between projects here by going right click and migrate, and not just trying to like copy paste shit between folders. I should have said copy paste stuff. This is how you know it's live, folks. I wonder if I can get a team of elves to edit that out for me. Okay, so let's go check out modular houses and see what we've got to play with. You will always find levels, like game levels, in the maps folder. And I've got a couple of different scenes here. The one I want is Demo One Night. So I know that the modular house pack comes with a nighttime scene as well. So let's open that up and take a look. Okay, so what's happening at the moment is it's come in as a totally black scene, and we're generating shaders. It could be, there it is. The light's starting to come up a little bit. Remember I mentioned that exposure was on? So camera exposure. Okay, so it was way too dark. The camera had to adjust itself basically. Okay, so what's happening here? So we've got our viewport. with all the assets beautifully arranged for us. Most people on the marketplace will have demos set up for their assets. On the right hand side of the UI, you've got your outliner. Now the world outliner contains all the objects that are currently in the scene that we're looking at. The difference between the world outliner and the content browser, if you can imagine, the world outliner outlines everything in the scene. The content browser is everything that's in the entire project that could go into the scene if you wanted it to. The content browser is like your desk and shelves of stuff. And then the outliner is like a description of the canvas in front of you and what's actually on it. So this is, you can select things directly from the outliner. So you can see I selected a tree back there in the background. I can focus on that and zoom into it if I hit F. Or you can select them in the viewport. And I'm just selecting it by just left clicking on it. So I just left click on it to select it. This is great. We've got a memory issue. Okay, out of memory, trying to allocate a texture. Make sure your video card has a minimum required memory. Try lowering the resolution and or closing other applications that are running. Okay, so it's the moment I hit OK, it's going to shut Unreal down. And you're going to get this error in a lot of scenes that are quite heavy visually. And what's so exciting is we get to fix this error live on camera. Because you're gonna get this all the time, especially the more interesting your scenes are, the more you're gonna get it. I get this error quite a bit when I'm running OBS as well, just because it's taking up a lot of juice. Okay, so I'm just going to snipping tool this, so we've got it, a copy of it. There we go. I think I've got my delay for snipping tool up too high. Okay, cool. Let's grab a copy of that error, which is just gonna make our lives easier when we go to search for solutions. And I'm going to take you on the whole process, man. Okay, goodbye Unreal. Thank you for crashing. It was nice knowing you. Let's go find a solution and then come back. Okay, so what was the error? Out of memory, trying to allocate a texture. Okay, I'm just gonna go. I think if I remember correctly, there was, and I don't want to just play someone else's YouTube channel on mine. But I do want to show you this incredible YouTube creator who's just amazing. So William Foucher he's like a VFX artist, cinematographer, and he does this just amazing cinema animation focused Unreal Engine stuff. Has a great video on troubleshooting exactly those issues. So let's see. Where was it? Here we go. Fix your crashing renders, GPU and D3D device. So that's the video I recommend checking out. I don't know if I could actually just play it, but I'm pretty sure that's like a copyright thing. But yeah, check that one out. It's really good. And also just subscribe to him and check out everything that he does because it's phenomenal. He's one of the best people to follow for lighting advice and lighting and cameras. Okay, so this is classic troubleshooting. What is the name of the thing that we're troubleshooting? And then we go to Google. Ask Dr. Google. All right. So I'll type in Unreal Engine. So always start your Google search with the context of the engine or the program that you're trying to troubleshoot. So Unreal Engine error. So it's a program, the thing that you're looking up. Out of video memory, trying to allocate a texture. Now I know what I want to do, but let's just see let's see what other people have recommended. Okay. There we go. We've got a couple of people with exactly the same issue. Let's just open a few up and see what people have said. That's trying to sell me something, I think. Oh, that's generic. Does it probably have more for video memory increase? Blah 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 blah. Not a whole lot of anything useful there. Go to editor settings, show frame rate and memory. Okay, there you go. So a way of determining, you know, what the part of the problem might be would be to go to editor settings and type in show frame rate and memory. Okay, there's two things I want to do. I want to turn off texture streaming. And let's check these ones out. Okay, what's this one? Increase page file size on Windows. I'm also going to turn off ray tracing. There shouldn't be any ray tracing turned on, but just in case. And we're going to lower the resolution of the playback. So, okay, let's get our project open and start changing some things. And we're going to change things while in that default level. That's a good like you can change your project to have your startup level be whatever you're working on. But there's a great argument for leaving it as this sort of default blank scene, because it means that when things go wrong and you have to go in and troubleshoot, you can do so without crashing Unreal. Whereas if we were starting in the urban village, it might actually crash before we get a chance to make the changes we want to make. Okay, so resolution, I believe, is in editor preferences. Let's just take a look for that. It's so warm. It's so warm. Resolution. If anyone has any recommendations for silent fans, I am so open to ideas. All right. Viewport resolution. Viewport resolution's pretty low, actually. It's just 1280 by 720. That's not that high. That should be fine. Let's okay, let's go into project settings, and I'm going to turn off texture streaming. So let's turn that off, because that's part of what was causing the crash. It was trying to allocate texture memory to stream textures. So that's off, and let's just try, we're going to try opening it up again. We're just going to see what happens. I am also going to drop the quality of the project. So up in settings, so up on the top of the UI, right above my viewport, I've got settings. And at the moment, everything is set to epic. You know how in a video game, you can bump up the visual quality of your foliage and your terrain and your shadows and all kinds of stuff. This is that. This is that same thing. And just like in a game, you would drop all of those settings if you're having performance issues. We do exactly the same thing and drop the same settings in our engine, because we're effectively running a game and displaying a game while operating in Unreal Engine. So let's go engine scalability settings. I'm going to drop those down to, let's just set them to high, and we're just going to see how we go. Okay, let's try opening up that map again. And oh, it crashed instantly. Instant crash. Okay. Let's try one more thing. This is all very exciting. I'm curious if it's actually going to open in another project that I have where I solved some of those issues. Let's find out. Okay. So it's literally when I go to open up modular houses that it crashes. So I'm going to, let's go force ray tracing off. So what I'm doing to do that is, you can see it in the output log as well. So I go tilde key on my keyboard, which is the little squiggly key just above tab. And that opens up my console command editor, where you can see it here. That's at the bottom of the screen. And it's context specific, so I can actually start typing and it's going to suggest something like, hey, did you mean to say that you wanted to look up force while ray tracing effects off? So I'll just start typing force, and then boop, immediately it says, hey, do you want one of these 4 options? And the 4th one is r.raytracing.force all ray tracing effects. And you can set that to either 1 for on or 0 for off. So I make sure I have that r.raytracing.force all ray tracing effects is populated in that field. Go go space 0. That turns everything off. Now, we're going to go try and open up that scene again. And if it crashes again, it could be that one of the things I turned off, it actually needs. Like it actually needs texture streaming. Or maybe it actually needs ray tracing, which is why I want to go check in my other project where those things are turned on. But for the sake of science, let's minimize our variables. We're going to just open it up again here, see what happens. Opening up demo night. Boom, crashes immediately. Okay, so that tells me that it maybe needed texture streaming or ray tracing. So I'm going to go open up the other project and we're going to see if it opens there. This is really fun. It's exciting being able to troubleshoot stuff with you. Oh man, I'm so warm. Like I want to take this off, but that would be a very unprofessional look because it's just like I look like a punk. It's just sawed off at the arms. Of course, it's not exactly professional, me sitting here going blah, blah. Okay, library, and the other one I've got is it's the project that has my monster scene in it from the Lady Death piece. So let's open that up. And we're going to go into, I just want to see what's on project settings. And in project settings, is texture streaming turned on? I'm just curious. Yes, texture streaming is turned on. And ray tracing. Is ray tracing turned on? No, ray tracing is turned off. So then when I turned off texture streaming in the other project, it killed. It was instant crash from that point forward, which means texture streaming is needed by this project, and that's why it's dying, which is problematic because it was running out of memory trying to allocate textures, which means there's a few more things we would have to do. Anyways, in the meantime, modular houses, so let's go. Let's open it up and see if it opens. That's not the file I want, that's the build data. Another episode at another time we'll talk about building lighting, which is basically like crunching lighting down into textures, adding it, like baking it into the textures so it's easier to process, faster and cheaper to process. This is coming extremely bright. Let's find our post-process volume. We've got lots of post-process volumes. Let's go PP main, and I want to turn off my exposure. So when you want to actually modify an asset, so you can select it here in the outliner, and down here the actual settings of that asset are in the details panel. Now PP or post process it's like adding filters in Instagram. It affects the overall look of the image. And what I want to do right now is I want to adjust the camera exposure because this is blown out and really hard to see. So on that post process volume, if I scroll down to the details panel, you'll see it has exposure. Now it personally currently doesn't have any exposures, anything on it. So I'm going to turn that on, and to neutralize this exposure, I'm going to turn on both min and max. Boom! It has instantly, well, I haven't neutralized it, but I've instantly caused it to actually respect the exposure settings that are already there. So I can leave it there. That's not a drama. All right, what do I want? There was actually a house that I did want to look at. So if you remember with the image, I had her in an open doorway, and now there's two choices I guess we've got here. We've got either, there's two ways I was thinking we could do this. We could either do, she is standing in the open doorway at night of a house, and so she's lit from the front, like, so she's got light, so she would have lighting down her front here, and shadow behind. The other way to do this is to be in daytime, and the lighting would all be behind, and she would be casting shadow into the scene. I do like the idea, because that means that she's shrouded in shadow, so maybe no one from the street can actually see the thing coming out of her. So let's just go take a look at the daytime scene before we choose which house we want to use as our background template. By the way, I went and moved an object and I didn't tell you anything about it. So if you want to, say, rotate object, like I want to rotate this door open, there's two ways you can access this gimbal, which is what it's called, this rotation gimbal. One is, there is this, on the top of the viewport here, you've got three buttons. The very first one, which is a little square with arrows in all directions, is your move. If I drag on one of the arrows, you see I can move that door out of place. The middle one is a little square with a circle around it, and that's your rotate. If I left click and drag on any one of these axes, I can rotate the door, and there's only one axis where it's going to rotate well. And the artist in the 3D program set this up to rotate from that point of the door. Though I believe Unreal's got some stuff that allows you to change a pivot point. So for example, what if I wanted to rotate it from the handle, which is preposterous, but who knows? I'm gonna go right click on the handle and go pivot. I'm gonna go set pivot offset here. What? Why would anyone rotate a door from its handle? But there you go, like you can actually change the pivot offset if you wanted to. Let's change that back because it has a good pivot offset where it is. Okay, so that's how you rotate an object. Oh, and the third one, the square with the two little arrows pointing in this direction, is scale, which if you drag on any one of the axes, you can scale in just that direction. And if you left click and drag in the very middle, that scales everything in every direction uniformly. Okay, the other way to access all those is from hotkeys that don't make any sense. So the move hotkey is W. The rotate hotkey is E. And the scale hotkey is R. Why? I don't know. W for where do you want to move? E for ellipsing, and R for really embiggen. There you go. That's how you're going to remember. Okay, anyways, I want to go check out the daytime scene and make a call as to whether or not I want my art to be lit daytime or nighttime, whether I want the lighting to come from inside the house or from outside the house, and then I'm going to start bringing my props in. I've got a little less than an hour to do this, and then I have to go pick up my little chubby bundle of chaos from daycare. Okay, so let's go to, we've got demo dynamic, demo night, demo static, and overview. So the daytime would be either static or dynamic. Let's try static. I just want to see what that is. It instantly asked me if I want to save. Because I've been doing weird things at the door, I'm choosing not to save my weird things on the door. I just don't need that drama. Gosh, I hope the first half of this particular stream had the mic on. I'm not going to know until I stop streaming. All right, we're going to wait for, no, that's right. We actually have to adjust the exposure. I generally search for things in the outliner by typing for them. So I'm typing post for post-process volume, and there it is there, PP main, so post-process main. And select that, and once again, go into exposure, turn on metering mode, and turn on min and max. Kaboom! And that adjusts the exposure back to what it was actually set to be. Sometimes if something's too bright when you come in, you just need for that particular version to go in and turn the exposure on that camera. Okay, so this is quite lovely. I do actually quite like this scene. If I come up and let's just open that door, and you can tell by the yellow outline that's shown up that this door has some kind of like collision, or so if I select the door, you see it says BP door outside, and it looks different from something like SM frame, which is static mesh. It's like a static thing. It's just a prop. It does nothing. But if I click on the BP, that's blueprint. Blueprint is like you can give that code. You can give it instructions. It is a dynamic object. And this yellow, so you can find out what's actually in this blueprint if you click on the link next to it. So we're going to do that right now. This is very much turned into a bit of an intro to Unreal, which is not a bad thing. So if I look in the, so this is opened up like a little mini version of Unreal, basically. If I look in the outliner for this blueprint, which is on the left-hand side for blueprints, which is kind of confusing, I've got my door mesh, and I've got a box where, by box I mean like it's a collision box, it's invisible, and I've got my trigger. So this trigger is what I walk into and make something happen. So to give you an example, let's actually see what happens when we play the level. Because in theory, I should be able to open that door. So I'm going to right click on the ground and go play from here. Cool, check it out. I'm in the game, guys. I'm going to walk up to that door. All right, I've passed into the, pressing E opens the door. There you go. Cool. So there, that's code. And if I exit the game, you'll see the door returns to normal. So where does that live? If I select that door again, once again, we're gonna click on the link. So we went into viewport before, but there is another couple of tabs that are worth knowing. And what actually caused that door to open is inside this event graph, where this is the scripting, this is the code, where it says, okay, so when that box, that trigger is overlapped, so when something steps into it, we want to enable the ability for the player to interact with it. So we enabled input for the player controller. And the input we're enabling specifically is if I press E to open, which is, that's common parlance. Most first-person shooter games, you press E to open the thing. Press E to open. And if it's closed, then play. This timeline is like basically saying, so if I double click on that, it's saying I want to play something from 0 to 1. So from closed to open, play it over time. It's like keyframes if you're familiar with that terminology. And I've got some math here. So I want to open, use this timeline to drive from false to true, basically closed to open, the rotation of this door, and the rotation amount is going to be driven by this math and whether or not it's closed or open. Oh man, we're so not going deeply into blueprints today, but I would love to be able to actually explain this in more detail for you. That is totally going to be the content of another live stream because there's so much to do. But yeah, this is what's controlling it opening up. I'm so off topic. I just really got excited and wanted to show you how that works. Okay, so let's actually open that and just have a look from that perspective. If the camera's going too fast, there is a camera speed option in the upper right hand corner of your viewport. You can actually drop that right down so that when you are flying around the shot, it isn't nearly as confusing and fast. So sort of, let's just take a look at our artwork again. Okay, so it's a bit of a fisheye lens kind of thing, and I'm looking, it should be about head height in real life. I'm from the perspective of the person who's opened the door. All right. You know what? I think I like the daylight shot, her in shadow from the front, but a beautiful, well-lit scene in the background. I think that is a very nice contrast. So beautiful, beautiful day in the suburbs, and frickin' monster coming out of the chest. Okay, we can just actually go from, I turned my camera speed up again, for crying out loud. For crying out loud. All right, so our lady is going to be standing right in the middle. I do actually want to see the car. So I'm going to move the car over, and I'm going to move the tree. That's kind of wasted at the moment on the other side where it's going to be blocked by her largely. All right, so we've got the car there, got the tree, and I want to just get some of my assets in here. Let's actually see, I want to see if there's a mannequin or something that I can drop in to just occlude the scene, give me some perspective on where she sits in that shot so I can add everything else around her. Okay, so let's go actually see if, I don't have anything I need to save. Let's just go see if a mannequin exists. Actually, rather than shut down Unreal, I'm just going to open a browser, and we're going to go to Unreal Marketplace here and have a look. Okay, Unreal Engine Marketplace, and I'm just going to search for mannequin. So that's what our little default character that's in some of these shots is referred to as a mannequin. So what are our mannequin options? Mannequin, robot, dynamic suit, mannequin family pack, that would be useful. Female mannequins, a bit pricey, but they've got some cool clothing options. Modular mannequin system. Oh, there you go. Here's one that I own from a previous free assets month. The female mannequin. Let's open that up and just take a look. So there's 20 pages of results I could look through. Some of them might actually be better than others. Oh my gosh, this looks fantastic. Some of these are just so awesome. I've got to come back for them at some point. Look at these guys. How cute are they? Okay, cool. Here's a female mannequin. I can use her to pose in place and just get a sense of scale. All right, it looks like open in launcher. Does that mean it has to have its own project? Let's actually exit my project and go back to the Epic Games launcher and have a look. I don't need to save anything. I haven't made any actual changes. All I've done is open the scene and take a look around. So we're going to go back to the Epic Games launcher, go into the asset store, or go into our library, look up the female mannequin, and see what we need to do to add that to the project. So search. There you go, female mannequin character. Cool. All we have to do is just go add to project. Dark Child. Oh no, that's right. Sorry. We actually went to my film project, the one where the texture streaming is. Let's add it to both, and then we're gonna try and fix the problem we had with the Dark Child project. So adding it to the film one. Doop 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 doop. Oh. Doop 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 doop. Oh. And whoever my one viewer is, there's a really cool DJ that I follow who is streaming VR stuff right now, apparently. When we're done here, we might go raid them. Could be cool. Could be a fun time. All right, so I've just added that to the film project, but let's add it back to Darkchild background. Oh, boom, that just added instantly. And try and actually fix our issue in Darkchild background, because I feel unsatisfied not having fixed that on stream for you. Cool, let's open up Darkchild background. First thing we're going to do is turn texture streaming back on, because we have identified that that is needed in the other so from the same assets in the other project where it's turned on and not crashing. So let's go into, first of all, we'll go window and edit, project settings. As it gets progressively warmer, I get progressively harder to understand, I imagine. Search details, and we'll go texture streaming. Turn that back on again. And the other thing I'm going to do right away before I open that scene up is we're going to go settings, and we're going to change the scalability settings to high. And let's go into modular houses and maps, and we'll open up demo static and just see how we go. Oh, it instantly did the video memory thing again. There's something else I've changed that it doesn't like, but what? But what? I mean, if all else fails, I can always create a new project. But I would very much like to know what's actually causing it to crash. All right, for the purposes of finishing this off, let's open up our film project again. Things that I would do, well, number one, I'd watch back through the video to see if I've changed anything else besides texture streaming. Oh, I didn't check the resolution of that project, did I? I would go in and I'd check so this particular project, which I've just opened up, I already adjusted the viewport resolution for this previously. But that probably won't be adjusted in the other projects because it would still be at default settings. So that would be probably the first thing I look at. Anyways, that's for my own time and my own curiosities. Let's finish the shot like I said we would. So opening up demo static, once again, search post versus volume, and go down to exposure, turn on metering mode and min and max. Brings us back. I did do some changes I forgot, so let's move our car back over and our tree. And we'll open the door. And rather than just save over this map, because I kind of want a clean version of the map to come back to, but to be completely honest. So what I will do is save out a new scene. So to save your scene, what I always recommend is have a folder. So under content, have a folder that is just your stuff. So I'm gonna go new folder, and I'm gonna go voxel vagrant. So all my stuff lives in the voxel vagrant folder. And I'll go right click, new folder, and go maps. All maps will live in the maps folder. So now we can go file, save current as, go to voxel vagrant maps, and we'll go demo 1 static. I'll just go modded so that I know future me that I've made modifications to this. But I also have the name of the original file there, so if I need to go back and check the original file for whatever reason, I don't have to sit there and go, which file was it? Which one was I actually working in? Cool. I have saved that as a new theme. Oh, it's done something really weird to my done something very weird to my shadows. Ah, it doesn't have baked lighting. That's what it's done. That's what's happened. That's okay, I get to show you how to do baked lighting. Okay, so I'm going to, so basically here's what I'm talking about. So when I save this as a new map, and this makes perfect sense because the baked lighting for the previous map was associated with that map's name. So when I save this to a new map, my shadows have changed and suddenly I'll say preview, preview, preview. Which is basically means my shadows have not been baked down yet. So when I'm done setting my scene up, the step I have to take is under build, which is up here next to the play button. There's a little arrow drop down. If I click on that, I've got lighting quality, which is currently set to preview, which is, it's low, but it's fine. And then build lighting only, or I can just press the build button and that builds light and reflections. And that does things like calculate light from the sky, like light bouncing through the shadows, so hitting the ground and bouncing up again. It calculates all the sort of additional lighting that you see in the real world that involves bouncy particles of light physics, which is fun stuff. It's really cool. We're not gonna do that right now just because building lighting can take like an hour and I want to do that in my own time. So cool, let's bring in we've already brought in our female mannequin, so under content, female mannequin, meshes, female mannequin, tall, petite, modular. I'll go petite standalone. Let's actually see what my animations are. We've got a couple of just standing here posing. I just want to look at blend space 1, blend space 2, animation blueprint. Idle. Look, it's just a generic pose. It just does a, it's actually, that's actually quite similar to the base pose of, like, that's so not intentional, but, you know, I'll take it. Let's get her into position. And start working on our arrangement. Now, would she have stepped forward into the doorway? I think she would. She doesn't really necessarily want anybody to see the thing coming out of her chest. And the other thing I want to do is let's set up our camera. Okay, so let's add a camera into the scene. And that's going to be, so we want is a Cine camera, or I could just under, so on the left hand side is basically, it's our toolbox. It's all the things that come with Unreal that you can drag into a scene, like cameras, lights, post-process volumes, things that aren't, you know, you haven't added it to your project and put it in your content browser. These are things that are in the engine and they come, every project, every engine has these. They are made by Epic. So under cinematic, I've got Cine Camera Actor. So let's drop that in. And I actually want to pilot that. So I actually want to just look through that camera and frame my shot that way. Yeah. I'm going to want to change my lens. Okay, what options do I have? If I just select the camera actor on my outliner and I scroll down to my details panel, you'll see under film back, you've got sensor width, height. You've also got a bunch of template lenses. So 16:9 film, digital film, DSLR, Super 8. Super 8's like really, really, really zoomed in. Whoa. Let's focus on her. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Good thing we're not using the Super 8 camera, huh? That one's too much, man. If you've lost your camera in Outliner, you can just search cam in the Outliner search bar and you'll find your camera again. Super 16, 35, 35 Academy, full aperture, VistaVision, IMAX. Oh yeah. And IMAX actually gives us a little bit of that fisheye lens, which is kind of cool. We might end up using that. APS-C Canon. Full frame DSLR and micro four thirds. I think that IMAX 70 actually gets us the closest to the sort of fisheye lens that I was going for. And you get that cool extreme angle as well, which is quite nice. Cool. Let's turn her towards him a little bit more. And the other thing with the camera is I can also, so you've got your film back, you've got your lens settings. I can also change my focus. So for example, I can use the dropper to just click on the screen and that changes my focus. You can see that now she's in focus and the background is not. The other way to do it is you can go tracking and say, expand the tracking focus settings. And I've got, I can now say, okay, I want, where it says active to track, currently it's none. If I open that up, the little drop down in that, it gives me a list of everything that's in the scene. But there's also an eyedropper here to the side of that field, which I can use to select just the object that I want to have in focus. But I am going to do the manual eyedropper and pick a point in space. Oh man, it's doesn't really want to, doesn't want to be super clean, does it? It kind of looks grungy. It's got these weird like broken pixels in the background there. They're just kind of gross. Just a bit gross. Good thing it's just reference for now, but that, well, this is a viewport. It could be because I lowered the quality, but you know, before we rendered that, we'd want to actually test a final render to see if that aliasing bug in the background came through. I don't even know if you guys can see that, but I'm looking at it going like, it's so obvious and it looks so bad. Cool. Let's just check the art reference again. Okay, so if I were to open the door, step back, open door, step back, beep, oops. I don't want to step back too far, just far enough. I think that is pretty close to our shot. What do you reckon? Maybe the camera needs to be up and down in space a little bit more. All right, let's just move that down slightly. Go back to our Cine camera actor. So I think in our shot we can see her feet and top of her head. Yes, we can. I can also move her slightly back. Cool. Nah, I liked her original position. There we go. All right, and you know, adjusting the camera just then by flying through it and then moving it in space was really awkward. It would be far simpler to actually adjust the camera in Sequencer, which is what you use to control cameras. So I'm going to add a cinematic sequencer to the scene. It also means that if I want to animate this, I can. And by the way, I think I just really blew through the Mannequin thing, just to show you. So you know how we installed the Mannequin into this project? That's shown because so that automatically comes into the content folder, and inside female Mannequin, I've basically gone straight to the animations. Did I? No, I'm in Creatures Pack right now. Okay, so female Mannequin, straight to the animations, female petite, and I pulled the idle animation into the shot because the basic stance of that is what I want to look at. But yeah, so you could pull an animation into a shot and then you have just that animation, or you can pull in the actual female Mannequin mesh. So for example, the petite standalone, you can just pull in the actual mesh itself and then apply any animation to it. So there's a couple ways if you can actually bring in, and that stuff I covered pulling in animations and characters in a previous video, which is on YouTube at the moment. If I edit this later on, I'll have like a link pop up or something about getting animations from Maya into Unreal. Okay, so let's go back into my content folder again in Voxel Vagrant. I'm actually just going to go up to cinematics, such as at the top of the viewport, next to blueprints, and go add level sequence. And I'm going to go into the Voxel Vagrant folder and create a folder called cinematics. And in there, I shall put in my D-child shot. So this has now given me a new editor, which is for me just popped up down here next to the content browser. Let's adjust this so you can actually see outside of my webcam view. And so that's just, now if I minimize these content folders, you'll see my Voxel Vagrant folder there. And if I open up cinematics, boom, here, if you double click on Dark Child Shot, it should open on your end this sequencer window. Come on, just pull off. There we go. It should open up this sequencer window, which has nothing in it right now. So we're going to add the camera into it right away. Select my camera, and click on the green track button. So I want to add a track to this. And now because I've got the camera selected already, it's instantly suggested, hey, do you want to use what you've got selected and create a track out of it? Why, yes, I do. I'll left click on that, and you'll see now that that exists inside my scene. And now anytime I click on these camera cut tracks, I'm looking through that perspective, and I can come in and adjust a lot of the settings of my camera. So for example, if I want to just, let's put the sequencer over here for now, because that's going to make my life easier. If I want to just adjust the location, so if I just want to adjust where the camera sits in space, one way I can do that is down here under transform. Just go straight to location X, Y, or Z. I'll try each of them. So here's X, and that lets me move the camera, pan the camera side to side. Y, and I'm basically left click dragging on that number associated with Y or X or Z. That lets me move the camera forwards and backwards, so zooming, and then Z, up and down. And that's a far cleaner way to adjust the position of that camera in space, is via this sequencer. And the sooner you get comfortable with sequencer, the better, to be completely honest. I seem to have totally borked the editor. I think the whole computer's running out of memory, just saying. Okay. Editor totally borked. There we go. Toolbar Sequencer. Oh, that's a nightmare, isn't it? Let's pull that away. Bring it back down to. I'm just left clicking. You can left click drag any one of these tabs anywhere on the interface and change where they sit, which just makes it easier to work with. Okay, so we've got our camera in sequencer. This is your first stage for animation. You can set keyframes on the camera from here and actually start animating the scene which we're going to do on a separate live stream. Right now, we're just trying to get this shot set up. The last thing I want to do is add some of the props I got from Turbosquid. So let's create a new folder in Voxel Vagrant. I'll call this Meshes. And now the correct method to do this would be to actually export from Maya and then bring it into Unreal. And I'm going to do it the correct way, because even though it takes a couple of minutes, I'll know what it is I'm bringing in, versus sitting here going like, which one is which? I don't know. But after I do that and set up my shot, I'm going to have to call it a day, because it is so hot up here. I am dizzy. That's not a good look. Fainting on camera is not a good look. Okay, so I want this. I think you can actually see the door in my shot. You can. So I want that little wreath on the door. And were there candles? Were there candles? Oh, were there candles? Well, kind of. Maybe I'll get these like little houses in the candelabra, and I'll put that on the windowsill next to the door. And then I'll put some of like the pumpkins and stuff just behind her on the street. So let's go back to Maya, and in here I'm going to select, left click and drag everything that's just this wreath. I had accidentally grabbed some other objects, and all I need to do to get rid of them, get them out of the selection set, is hold down Control and left click drag a selection box around them. So long as I'm holding Control, they will be removed from my selection set. So I've got this object selected called wreath. I'm going to group that together, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom so you can see that's where that's grouped together. And I'm actually going to just combine it into one object, because one object is way easier for sorry, I speak English only. Unfortunately cannot, I do not know what it is you are saying in YouTube chat, unfortunately. So if you speak English, that'd be great. And if not, hopefully, oh, I need to get some closed captions. That's what I need to do for the next stream. I need to get some closed captions happening, which I think would be very useful for international audiences. Okay, so I'm going to combine this into one object, and we're going to export that and send it to Unreal Engine. So just as sort of making my life easier, you see how there's like all different kinds of materials and stuff on this. If I combine it into an object and it's got a lot of different materials on it, it's going to have a different slot for each of those materials in Unreal Engine. And every material slot you have in an object takes up graphical processing power. So I just want one material slot. So I'm actually going to select all of that again. I'll go back, I'll go Control Z until I have it all selected again. And I'll right click on that object and go Assign New Material. And this just opens up a Assign New Material window. And I'm just going to drop in a Lambert. So we're just going to drop in a new material on top of that. You'll see that's changed it all to gray. It now has the same material associated with it. And let's just move my little viewer count guy down somewhere so I can keep track of that. Hi guys! For some reason, you don't show up in my little viewer count ticker for Streamlabs. You're like ghosts. You're ghosts in the machine. Hey. All right, so I've added a new material to all of that, and let's go back to having it all selected again. And to combine it, I actually need to be in the modeling dropdown. So up in Maya in the upper left-hand corner, it's currently animation. I'm going to change that dropdown to modeling, because what I need is this menu, mesh. So I'll go mesh and combine. And what that does is, where previously I was selecting individual pieces, now it's all one piece. It's just one object. A couple of housekeeping things. So before I export this, I need to delete history. So I need to delete that combine operation, so it's a clean object. And I need to make sure that its pivot point is, well, in this case, I'm going to make sure the pivot points, that it is at world space 0 and its pivot point is at world space 0. So right now its pivot point is at the center, but we can make sure that it's at the center with this option on our main poly modeling bar called center pivot, and that just centers the pivot to the center of the object. The second one that we're going to use is delete by type history. And if I could do Control A with this object selected, this opens up the channel box, which shows me, where it sits in space. It thinks it's at world space 0. It's not, but it thinks it is. And under inputs, you see you've got poly unite. That's the combine operation we had, which if we take that into Unreal with poly unite on it, you never know what that combine operation is going to do in the wild. So we're just going to delete that. So delete history, boom, poly unite has gone away, which is totally fine right now because we don't have any rigging or bones or joints or anything on this. If I had a skeleton on this that had bones that was controlling the object, I wouldn't just use delete history because it would actually delete the rigging history as well. I would use, specifically I would use edit, delete by type, non-deformer history, and that would delete something like poly unite, but not the rigging information. Okay, so that's cleaned up. I'm gonna send this to world space 0. Where is world space 0? Where is my grid? Let's actually just hide all these objects, hey? And I believe that's my grid down there. It's so tiny. So I'm going to select my object. I'm going to hold down X, which is going to go snap to grid. And I'm going to left click and drag that down to where my grid is. Now this is going to come in absolutely huge, I think. And I want that center pivot to be right smack dab in the middle. Boom. There it is. That is world space 0. Now the object still has these numerical values, which says, oh, I moved away from world space 0 by -110 and -2,765. They're like, no, actually, we're going to freeze that. Your transforms are going to be 0. From now on, where you're sitting is world space 0. So with that object selected, I go to the third option in our little triad of awesome here. And it's the snowflake with 0, 0, 0, and that's freeze transforms. And you'll see that's zeroed it out now. So if I move this a little bit, it picks up on how many units I moved it from that 0 point, which Unreal will be able to do the same as well, which is great. The last thing I'm going to do is at the very beginning of the stream, when we first put together a project, I mentioned how Unreal hates long names. And as you can see in Maya right now, it's a very long file name. So I'm just going to double click on that and just type wreath, because that's all it is. So short name. It's also a very heavy object. So this wreath is itself 491,000 triangles. I'm actually going to fix that over in Unreal, because in Maya, if I tried to reduce the triangles in Maya, it would be very destructive. Like I would actually ruin the mesh and there's no coming back from that man. Whereas over in Unreal, I can reduce how many triangles are on this mesh and reduce how heavy it is non-destructively, as in I can come back to it. So I'll just show you what I mean by that. Okay, let's export this and jump over to Unreal and bring it into our scene to add it into our shot. So go wreath, file, and game exporter. Game exporter is our jam. This is where we want to be. This has got just all the right settings. So I'll just bring this over. First thing I want to make sure is I'm going to bring this over to the right so it's not behind my webcam. First thing I want to make sure is under on the left hand side where it currently says export all, I'm going to change that to export selection so it just exports what I'm looking at. I'm going to turn on triangulate because Unreal needs it to triangulate. It needs it to be in triangles. It's going to turn it into triangles. but I'd rather not have Unreal processing that. I could just process that myself right now. And I'm going to choose a directory to export that to. So let's actually export that to, I'll just create a project directory for this illustration. Cool, I've actually got one already. So I've got clients VV for Voxel Vagrant, exports, and I'm going to create a folder for my Dark Child background exports. And we're just going to grab that directory, and that's so path. Let's actually, it's on the other window. Exports, and go to the directory I just created and choose that. That's my path, and the name is Wreath. I'm just using exactly the same name as in Maya, which, if I remember correctly, means it's going to come in as Wreath in Unreal, but I can rename that. And I'll go export. Boom, export successful. Let's go see what that looks like in Unreal. So I'm going to turn off piloting the camera, make sure I'm just in a default perspective camera view, and let's go into content, Voxel Vagrant, into the meshes folder I created before, and we're going to go right click. So right click, import to game, and I will just go get the asset that I had exported before. Wreath, cool, open. Couple of things. One, it's coming in, it's generating collision automatically. I'm going to turn it off, but that means like you can pass right through it. It won't actually have a collision event. But because it's off, that means, physics, it won't drop, things can't interact with it, etc. So if your object is meant to be interactable, make sure you've got that generate missing collision on. And I am going to, so down where it says import normals, I'm going to change it to import normals and tangents. And I'm going to leave this as it is for now. Oh, I didn't change the rotations when I exported it. Okay, we'll come back to that. I cover exporting proper rotations in my character animation, live stream and videos. And under search location, so material import method is currently create new materials. We're just going to go do not create material. I just want to have it come in at a default blank material. I don't need any materials, and I don't need any textures, so turn off import textures. And just go import. And that's going to bring in our wreath. Voila. There's our wreath there. And just to show you how easy it is to reduce the triangles on this, if I go into, so what I've done is I've just double clicked on the wreath. So here's the wreath asset, double click on that. On the right hand side under LOD 0, so level of detail 0, that's your base main level. I'm going to go to reduction settings and expand that. Change percent triangles. I'm going to drop that down to say 25%. And I'll go apply changes, and just here, let's just watch and see what happens. So apply changes, and this is a huge jump. I'm dropping it down to like a quarter of the triangles. Why would you do this, I hear you ask? I just said that. Of course I can't hear you ask. You would do this if you've got a lot of objects in your scene and you want to render. Now, because I'm just laying out a shot for a still image, I'm not going to do this for every object. But if I was rendering this shot, like if I was actually processing the camera, I would absolutely do this for every object. Okay, so all the changes, it has definitely changed the look of the eye. So I think 25% might be a bit much. So I'm actually going to bump that back up to 75%, and we'll go apply changes. And that should return it to 75% of the original. If we were doing this in Maya, there's no coming back. You would just reduce and then cry, because your mesh would be destroyed. Okay, this is pretty much brought back most of our mesh. The eye pretty much looks like what it looked like before. So it's looking fine to me. Our vertices, our triangles have reduced by about probably about 150,000 or so. I'll save that scene. Oh man, am I getting so dizzy. All right, let's just place this object, and I think we might call it a stream at that point because it's bloody warm and I need to undizify myself before I go pick up the baby, before I go try driving a vehicle. Okay, let's switch back to my camera so I can actually see everything in shot. And I'm going to place my wreath. It's huge. Would you look at the size of that wreath? It's a very large wreath. Let's reduce the scale of that, shall we? So on the right-hand side with my wreath selected, I'm in the details panel, and I've got my transform values. I've got my location, so where it sits in space, rotation, and scale. I'm going to drop that right down to 0.1. I have to do 0.1 in all axes if I want it to be uniform. 0.1, 0.1, and 0.1. Oh, hey, that's way more wreath size, don't you reckon? Way more wreath sized. So we're going to, let's pop back to perspective because I don't want to ruin my camera, to be honest. Just go normal perspective camera. There's my Cine camera just there. And let's just get that on the door. And then I'll take a screenshot and we'll call it a day. And I hope, because there's been a viewer sitting in this channel pretty solidly the entire time. I really hope this was useful to you. I hope you got something out of this. Hopefully it is, you are a beginner and this was useful, because if you're actually a pro, you are probably really frustrated this entire time watching me do all this, because you're like, I know this already, come on, show me something new. But I want all of these live streams to be completely beginner focused. Sorry to all the pros out there. All right, so this really needs to be a lot smaller. Let's go, how about 0.05? What does that look like? I think that's perfect. Perfect. Voila. Let's make sure it's actually sitting on the door. Because it's going to look weird otherwise. It's currently snapping. I'm going to turn snapping off, which is these orange. So it's like this orange grid and this orange angle. I'm just going to turn those off so that I can, smoothly adjust it pixel by pixel and get the position that I want. Let's go back to our camera view. Can't see it at all. I need a wider film. I need a wider lens here. Cool. And let's just do that again. I'm gonna cheat this a little bit, scooch this forward. Just because I want it in shot. Scooch it down. Let's see what that looks like. Cool. VR Tech. I feel like every once in a while I've got bots coming into the room saying strange things, but I don't know what they mean. In the YouTube room anyways. So there, yeah, the YouTube channel just has the occasional couple word, just couple letters, words coming in from people that I've never heard of before. Oh shit, I just screwed up my shot. Get my framing back. Be careful about moving your camera when you are previewing your camera shot. Let's just drop that sensor width a bit. Okay, cool. I like that. So I'm gonna wrap here. I've shown how to create a project from scratch. I've shown how to bring in assets from the marketplace, how to bring in assets from Turbosquid, how to set up your camera, how to place objects, move them, rotate them, reduce the polys, set up your camera in sequencer, frame your shot, etc., etc. What I would do next from here is I would bring in the rest of my assets. I'd set up my little houses and pumpkins on the windowsill and then on the porch and in the street behind her. I finished blocking out this shot, which is what I am going to do before I continue working on the actual painting of this, which is here, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. You can't see it because my camera's there. So I'm going to keep working on the painting of this on Friday, and that will be as part of the Twitch stream. My regular Monday, I always Cine time Monday and Friday, which is Sunday and Thursday US time, are my two art stream days. So I'll keep working on, I'll do the background block out for this before then, and then we'll keep working on the artwork on Friday. And I'm gonna call it now and go decompress and cool off before I try driving a motor vehicle. And I hope you found this useful. I will be producing short bite-sized videos of each of the major topics over the course of this month, for anyone who doesn't want to sit and watch an hour and 48 minutes of live stream. But yes, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you found something here useful to you, and I will catch you next time.